Hey, it's the Suffering Student here with another video regarding SQL with queries and pgadmin and PostgreSQL. So, in this video, I'm going to be talking about how to create tables and connect the tables together. So, I already created quite a few SQL lines, and I'll just be going through them and explain it. So, basically, I created a table, like we have previously discussed, having like a user ID, which is serial, which means increment by 1, a primary key, which is its defining feature of our table. In this case, it's user, so we have a name and we have a phone number. So first, I create this table. I can just select all from my users table just to see it's empty. Here we go. And I will just run it, and it's empty. I will then insert some information. So now inside users, we have two users. We have a Daniel and a Dan. The phone number, just some random numbers in this case. And they are char, which means they would, when I'm creating a number, it needs to be 11 chars long, so it will just fill empty spaces up to 11. But it doesn't really matter in this case, just some random numbers, just to showcase a phone number. User ID, some names, I made them capital. That's not really necessary, that was more by mistake, but let's just keep it. Then I have another table I will call tasks, and this one also have an ID. In this example, it doesn't really matter too much the task have ID, but I think it's pretty good practice. And if you're gonna refer to these tasks somewhere else, it might be necessary, but they have an ID as well, which is serial. Then what's different and new is they also have the user ID, like the user, but now we are referencing the user's table with user ID, which means we are connecting our tables where we first create a user, and then when we insert information into our task table, we are able to tell it, like down here when we're gonna go into user ID, put the user ID number 1, we're telling it the user with the user ID number 1, in this case Daniel, is part of this specific task. So we would have example 1 with user ID, task location Denmark, just examples again, and working as the task description. I need a semicolon. But let's first create the table. Then I would insert my information. And let's have a look at our task table. Which contains our user ID, our task ID, our task location, and our task description. So what we're now able to do is simply by doing, or what we're going to talk about in the next few videos, is how to get this information out when we have multiple tables connected. Because normally we just do select whatever we want from one table. But I just have a short example here where I'm not going to be explaining too much today, but we're going to be probably discussing it more in the next few videos. But where I select the name, the phone number, and the task location, which is from multiple tables. So we have the name from the users, and we have the phone number for the user as well, but the task location from the task table. So we're selecting this from where we're first creating like a new view. So we're selecting all from users and tasks, where we have the same user ID and the same user ID in both tasks and users table. So we're getting all information where they are connected, and we're saving it as foo, which just means we're saving it as like a variable, kinda. We need to give it a name. And then from this connection of data, we are finding where task location equals Denmark. So we would get all the name, the phone number, and the task location where task location equals Denmark. So let's try just to showcase adding, let's say we also have user 1 working somewhere else, maybe in the USA, for example. So now we would also insert it into tasks. So now inside task, we can see we have task 1. We have user ID 1 working on it, and it's in Denmark, and it's working. So just if you have more your knowledge about databases, this is definitely not a good way of creating tables, and something we'll also be discussing later, how to create them probably, but not how to create them, but how to structure them. But in this case, task ID, and now user ID, so the same users working both on something in Denmark and the US, but let's say we wanted just all the ones in Denmark, we would be able to call this, and get it as is. So this was just a short introduction, probably talking too much about how to get stuff out again, but just trying to discuss how to connect tables through using the references keyword. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe, and I wish you all a wonderful day.